Some mysteries just get under your skin. And the disappearance of Maura Murray is one of the biggest unsolved cases of the internet age. It starts with a simple car crash, but trust me, this is anything but simple. It's a maze where every single path leads to a dead end.
And that's exactly how we're going to tackle this today. I want you to put on your detective hat with me. We're going to walk through the evidence together, but here's the thing about this case. Every clue we find, every lead we chase, it's like opening a door, only to find an empty room on the other side. So, you ready? Let's get started. Okay, so first, let's set the scene. We're talking about Maura Murray. She's a 21-year-old nursing student at UMass Amherst. From everything we know, she was smart, she was an athlete, a totally normal young woman. But on the night of February 9th, 2004, on a dark, snowy road in the middle of New Hampshire, she just vanished. To understand this, we've got to start with what we actually know. This timeline is our foundation. So at 1 p.m., Maura emails her professors saying there's been a death in the family. Here's the first weird thing. Her family later said there was no death, no emergency at all. A couple hours later, she hits an ATM and pulls out $280, pretty much everything she had in her account. And then at 7:27 that night, she crashes her car. And that's where the facts stop and the questions begin.
So, you're the detective arriving on scene. Where do you start? The crash site, of course. This is our first door. Let's open it up and see what we can find.
And right away, we hit the central problem of this entire case. A local bus driver named Butch Atwood actually saw the crash. He pulled over, talked to Maura, and then drove the 100 yards back to his house to call the cops, because there was no cell service right there. By the time the first police officer got there, just 7, maybe 10 minutes later, Maura was gone. 7 minutes. That's it. How does someone just disappear in 7 minutes? This is the one and only witness we have, and his account is so strange. Butch Atwood saw her car spun out against a snowbank and offered to help, offered to call the police for her, but she said no. In fact, she reportedly begged him not to call, saying she'd already called for roadside assistance. But here's the thing, there's no record of that call ever being made. So the very first door we open, the crash site itself, is an immediate dead end. Maura is just gone. Police dogs tracked her scent for about 100 feet down the road, and then nothing. It just stopped. There were no footprints in the snow, no sign of a struggle, just an empty road. All right, so the scene is a wash. The next logical step for any investigator, right? You look at what was left behind. So let's open our second door, the inside of Maura's abandoned car. And wow, what a bizarre collection of stuff. You've got partially packed bags, like she's going on a trip, but then you have her college textbooks, like she's planning on going back to class. There's an open box of wine, birth control pills, printed out MapQuest directions to Burlington, Vermont, and maybe the weirdest thing of all, a rag stuffed in the car's tailpipe. What was that for? Did it cause the car to stall? Or was it something else? It's just another puzzle. And this right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the contradiction. Look at what she left behind. Her cell phone, her credit cards, her bank cards, basically everything you would need to function in the modern world. But she took her keys, a backpack, and some alcohol. It's like the evidence is screaming two completely different stories at the same time. This mystery just keeps getting deeper.
Okay, so the physical evidence is a total mess of contradictions. At this point in a cold case, you've got no choice. You have to turn to theories. So let's treat each of the big ones as another door we need to open. The first, and maybe the most popular theory, is that Maura just wanted to disappear, that she was dealing with some personal stuff, so she staged the whole thing to escape and start over, maybe up in Canada, which wasn't too far away. And you can see why people believe this. The packed bags, the made-up family emergency, the directions to a new place. Plus, we know she'd had a minor car accident and some other stressors right before she left. It paints a pretty believable picture of a planned escape. Maybe she had someone waiting for her just down the road where the scent trail went cold. It kind of makes sense. At first. And boom. Just like that, the door slams shut. Come on, think about it. You can't just start a new life in the 21st century with no phone and zero access to your money. It just doesn't work. The most basic logic completely unravels this theory. So, we close that door and we move on. All right, let's try another door. This theory is a lot simpler and honestly, a lot more tragic.
The idea is that after the crash, maybe she was a little disoriented, maybe she'd been drinking, and she just wandered off into the massive White Mountains National Forest, got lost, and sadly succumbed to the brutal New England winter. But this theory hits a brick wall almost instantly. There have been massive searches over the years, on the ground, in the air, with dogs, with volunteers, and they have found absolutely nothing. Not a scrap of clothing, not her backpack, not a single trace. For someone to vanish that completely just a few hundred feet from a road, it seems almost impossible.
So this leads us to our third, and by far the most disturbing door, the foul play theory. The idea here is that some predator, a real opportunist, just happened to be driving by, saw a young woman alone after a crash, and abducted her in that tiny 7-minute window. And once again, we hit another wall. There were zero signs of a struggle at the scene. And that road, while it's rural, it's not totally deserted. For an abduction to happen so quickly, so silently, in just 7 minutes, with no one seeing anything, it just strains belief. We're left with no evidence, just another closed door. So where does all this leave us? As detectives on this case, where are we? We've walked to the scene, we've sifted through the evidence in the car, we've explored all the most logical theories. And every single time, we've come up with nothing. It's not just a locked room. It's like we're stuck in a hallway with an infinite number of doors.
And this right here is what is so maddening about the Maura Murray case. Every single piece of information we have, the rag in the tailpipe, her refusal of help, the fake family emergency, it all feels like it should mean something. It feels like a major clue. But when you follow it, it doesn't lead to an answer. It just leads to more questions, making the whole thing even more mysterious. And that's really where this case stands today. After all these years, every theory is still on the table, but not a single one can be proven. All the clues are there, but the solution is nowhere to be found. The investigation is still just a long hallway of open doors, waiting for that one key piece of evidence that will finally tell us what happened to Maura Murray. The question is, which door do you think holds the answer?